Hey guys, well, something very interesting has just happened. The New York Times just announced its first generative AI deal with Amazon, of all people. Now, Amazon just very recently, like basically 5, 6 months ago, just started trying to actually get into the generative AI game with their own LLMs and including a completely new revamp of Alexa, just entirely adding a bunch of new LLM features with their own in-house LLMs. So this is kind of a big deal because this is it's the New York Times. It's like the world's like one of the biggest training data sets you could get if you wanted like information to train your LLM on. The New York Times is a pretty good one. And this is especially interesting, I should point out, because the New York Times is suing OpenAI. So we're going to go ahead and cover it in today's video. Let's get right into it. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and read this article by The Verge. The New York Times' first generative AI deal is with Amazon. So Amazon will use content from the New York Times and The Athletic for summaries and excerpts in the Alexa platform. So basically, this is a multi-year AI licensing deal with Amazon that, again, long story short, will basically allow Amazon to use its editorial content in a variety of different Amazon consumer experiences, including with their AI models. And this is very interesting, especially considering the New York Times sued Microsoft and OpenAI for copyright infringement, accusing the companies of copying and using millions of its articles to train their AI models while, quote unquote, well, actually, not even quote unquote, just depriving the publication of subscription, licensing, advertising, and affiliate revenue. Several other outlets have also sued OpenAI on similar grounds, including The Intercept, Raw Story, CBC Radio Canada, and the owner of IGN and CNET. Now, there's other publishers like the Atlantic, News Corp, and The Verge themselves that have struck AI licensing deals with OpenAI. So it's very interesting to see the New York Times go with Amazon. I'm pretty sure that probably struck a nerve for OpenAI executives. I'm pretty sure it must have. So I'm kind of curious to see what they're going to end up doing with this, because they do have a new version of Alexa, Alexa Plus, which is still kind of in early access, but Alexa Plus is basically just the normal Alexa platform, but with an LLM slapped onto it, which, well, as you can assume, is a pretty big deal because that just supercharges the whole thing. And it's one of Amazon's own in-house LLMs too. They're not using an LLM from some other company. They're not using DeepSeek, Anthropic, OpenAI, none of that. They have their own. They made their own in-house solution for this. So what I'm very, very interested in seeing is what they're going to do with this data set. Because having access to the New York Times, I mean, for crying out loud, the OpenAI and Microsoft wanted to use New York Times because it is a very big data set. So I have to wonder, what are they going to do with this? Part of what I think they're going to do with this is basically use New York Times content on Amazon consumer experiences. So if you go and ask Alexa like a certain news topic, it might give you a excerpt from the New York Times. It might pull from that source. Now, I don't know if they're going to train their models on it. They very well might. I'm not sure. I'm not totally sure on that yet. But one thing I do think, at least from what I'm reading and what I read, is they might go ahead and utilize it when customers ask Alexa what's going on in the news. It might go and pull from that source because they do have licensing for it. So it's possible. It's entirely possible. Maybe they'll integrate Wordle into Alexa. I don't know. But it is still very interesting, in my opinion anyways. And again, I'm I'm curious to see what they're going to do with this. I do think it is definitely kind of an semi-intentional slap in the face with OpenAI. It shows that Amazon's not messing around, because they struck this deal for a reason when New York Times was getting vicious at every other AI company. Amazon struck this deal. So I'm curious to see what they're going to do with it. I'm especially curious to see what Amazon is going to do next with their AI ventures, because their AI ventures seem quite competent. Admittedly, Alexa Plus is still kind of in early access. I haven't heard much about Alexa Plus for a long time, so it's definitely not become mainstream or anything yet. But they do seem to have a lot of competency in the AI industry, and it seems like an industry they could excel in. It's just not, you don't really hear much about Amazon's AI ventures, so I am curious to see what else they're going to do. Because they're just one of those companies that is in the whole AI race, but they're just kind of silent. Similar to like Microsoft, they have some stake in the AI race, but they're not really doing much about it. They got Copilot, but you don't really hear much about Copilot. But the difference here is that Microsoft doesn't really have their own in-house model. They have OpenAI, but they don't own OpenAI, nor do they own ChatGPT or O4 or whatever. They have a partnership with them, they have a stake in them, but they don't own the model. The difference is Amazon does own the model. They do have their own in-house model. So, again, it makes me wonder, what are they going to do next? Because I do think they have some potential here. That is about it for today's video. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Like, comment, subscribe. Take care of you guys, and remember to stay safe out there.